trying to get another 30 to 40 votes that are currently in the no category to yes. Once we do that, I think we can move forward with passing it on the House floor.
That's Congressman Mark Meadows. He's the chair of the Freedom Caucus. That's a group of conservatives that appear to be calling the shots as we speak tonight. Now, after President Trump and Speaker Paul Ryan assured everyone they had the numbers and they would get there tonight, turns out not so much. Tonight's scheduled vote pulled off the schedule. Now, even with some of the concessions that were covered earlier by Andrew, it wasn't enough to free up the Freedom Caucus. They want totally and completely a repeal of all elements of Obamacare, even some of the popular things like covering pre-existing conditions. They're also saying the GOP plan doesn't cut it because it doesn't cut costs. The bill needs 216 votes to pass, assuming 0 Democrats come on board. And as of now, that looks like a safe bet. Now, the Times whip count shows 145 supported, 45 undecided, 15 leading no, and 32 that are solid no's. Some of those in the no column are moderate Republicans who are worried that the repeal is going too far. And according to this brand new Quinnipiac poll, the American public, they're not sold on the GOP plan. As you can see, people disapprove by a nearly 40% margin. I want to bring in our panel to help sort this all out. We'll focus on the politics of it this segment. Richard Brodsky is a former Democratic New York State Assemblyman, now a senior fellow at Demos and a professor at NYU. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Bill O'Reilly, no, he's not bleeding, former Republican strategist who's now a member of the Conservative Party, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent.
I warned you.
Yeah, apparently.
I mentioned health care outside, and a guy took a crack at me
here earlier today. Okay, Bill, if you're given free counsel, and you don't do free counsel for Republicans, but if you were doing free counsel, would you say to them, the best thing that could have happened today is we didn't get the votes here, guys. Let's quit while we're ahead. Or does he need to get this through the House no matter what, because it'll be an abject political failure with consequences beyond just this piece of legislation?
I mean, I would say if I was giving counsel, spend all the time you need to make this a palatable bill and an effective bill. But I think what you're seeing here is an absolute referendum on Donald Trump among Republicans in Washington. Does he have the juice to force this bill through? And I mean, I don't know how they get it. My gut says that they somehow pull this off overnight, but I don't see how, because you got two sides of the Republican Party pulling from different directions. But if Trump can't force this thing through and his name is all over it, he's got a major problem in Washington.
The thing that I'm shocked by, though, Bill, is, listen, this is complicated stuff, reforming health care, and not that I think it was a poison pill when it was set up to try and undo it, but they've had 7 years to work on this. For the life of me, they set their own timetable. They made their own pronouncements. They told everyone the votes were doing. The Democrats, for once, shut up and let the Republicans manage this whole thing themselves. It's been like a slow-moving disaster film. I mean, how can you not do a head count? Why pronounce that you're there if you're not there already? And how does Ryan, who's a smart guy, not have a formulated alternative until they seem to be doing this in the back of the envelope for the last 2 months? It was stunning just how ill-prepared they were for today.
It was an awful day today, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. But, you know, over 7 years, things change, and people got used to being on Obamacare. And you have people that became reliant on it.
People got used to being able to go to a doctor?
Well, no, I'm saying
They used to be able to get in, to go to a
Even you
hospital.
acknowledge the
earlier,
thing wasn't perfect. There was a different way to do this.
Yes, but that is inconsistent with the right-wing ideology that governs the House Republicans. This is an enormous missed opportunity for Trump, because I had been saying that the Democrats' big fear was that he would do things that weren't movement conservative stuff, the infrastructure program, and he wasn't going to touch the entitlements. By making his first legislative battle a battle to do what he promised he wouldn't do.
He walked right into it.
He even if he wins, he loses. If the bill doesn't pass, he's alive to fight another day. If the bill passes, he's permanently tagged him and everybody with him as the guy who took health care away from 24 million Americans.
And it's also DOA in the Senate, Dominic. Who becomes the biggest loser? We did the math here. It's not like they're trying to convince one or two guys, okay? Maybe they do some broker, some overnight thing, but to do that, they're going to have to capitulate and make this thing even harsher than Andrew described right off the top. That ain't going to play. As he said, forget about it, New York and Peoria, too. So my point is the bigger loser tonight Paul Ryan, or is it Trump?
By far, Trump. Trump is the one with the most to lose. Trump is the one that on day one got behind this health plan. I never understood why he came out publicly and backed it the way that he did. We have seen this president. He's very good at talking a good game. And that's why they went out there talking about they were going to have the votes to pass this, but the membership didn't go along. So wait, let me just finish.
What would you say if the bill passes tomorrow? Would you say Trump is a loser
No, then
or a winner?
I would hate to admit it again. I would agree with you. If it passes, he's a loser again, because then he's stuck with this. And so you're right, Brodsky.
I think you should fall silent right now.
But Richard, I just want to say this in terms of, remember the honeymoon? Remember he said that that he won by a great majority. He can't even control his own members. So what do you think that's going to mean for him and with the American people? Meaning
And to
President
me,
Trump.
Andrew, I think that is the biggest thing was the art of the deal, the great negotiator. Just let me in a room with somebody. I know how to horse trade, right? If you didn't believe it, he told you 50 times, right? Does this also make him vulnerable on other things? If he can't deliver this, what next? Infrastructure, that was going to take Democratic votes and some Republicans. Same thing even with the tax code, total redoing of it. He needed cooperation. This was going to be hard, but he figured he'd get everybody his own party to sign on.
I actually think he's less vulnerable on other issues than he is on healthcare, because there's less division in the Republican Party on those other issues than there is on healthcare.
But hasn't he empowered the Freedom Caucus? Haven't they called his bluff and he's won?
He has, but eventually, if he manages to get healthcare through and he proposes a massive tax cut, which is the reason why healthcare is going first, so that he has the available resources to do the tax cut, he doesn't have to herd cats on that one. Everybody in that caucus wants those tax cuts. If he wants an infrastructure bill that is privately spent, that is not coming out of the U.S. Treasury, but incentivizes private enterprises to do the infrastructure work, there's not a lot of daylight among Republicans there either. I mean, I think it depends on the issue. But you're right, this speaks viscerally, I think, to his to the way he's perceived and the way he wants to present himself as being the deal maker who can knock heads and get it done, and he can't.
Passes tomorrow?
I think it's better for Trump that the bill passes than if it doesn't.
Yes. No, Bill, though, what I think is going to be interesting out of this is, and I'll use Chris Christie from a few years ago when he actually was above water, let alone at 10%, whatever he is at now. People feared him in Trenton. And just like any bully, once you figure out if you punch him, there's no there, right? Because he's vulnerable. It's a whole new world. We saw that in the last 12 months in Trenton. For Trump, for me, Republican governors like Kasich, like Brewer in Arizona. I mean, you couldn't find two more different people politically, but both of them, they opted into the Medicaid expansion. The Republican governor in Alabama, these guys are petrified because now they're on the hook. They went along with the plan, and if this goes away, what do? So they might have bit their tongue because they were afraid of ticking off this president, getting block grants maybe later on down the line. They're not afraid now.
Right. I think Russia has something to do with that. I think the fact that Trump keeps going crazy on Twitter has something to do with that, where they're beginning to not fear him because they think he's going to annihilate himself. You know this is a hot potato when the Trump people call it Ryan care and the Ryan people call it Trump care. I mean, you know there's a problem there. But
nobody wants to own this thing.
But even this afternoon, Sean Spicer, the White House spokesman, was out there promising by the hour, this is happening. Everything's on the line. There's no plan B. We're getting this done, period. And that's where they go into tonight, which is why that makes me think somehow they'll muscle this through.
And just one more thing, though,
but I don't
about
see
the
how.
inside baseball, which is, we heard reports today that different White House officials were giving different messages to folks on the Hill. I mean, all those rumors of the division where you had the Bannon group and then you had the Priebus group, then you had keep naming them, right? It seems to be happening today where people are like, wait a minute, I got promised one thing. What did they promise you? This is totally two different deals. So they don't even know who to believe. And the president reportedly isn't exactly getting down and dirty with the numbers here. Whatever you thought of Obama, he at least knew his own math as it related to the proposal, whether you liked it or you didn't. They don't know who they're dealing with when it comes to negotiating this.
Right.
This isn't just, it'll be huge, it'll be great. There's math involved.
And going back to what Dominic said before, is he put everything on the line.
Yep.
Why did they do that if they didn't know, if they questioned whether it was a good bill?
It's
Why
an
would
art.
they do
It's
it?
an art, as you guys know very well, counting heads and counting votes here, and they didn't do the 101 portion of it. All right, coming up next, prominent editorial just called Donald Trump a fake president, and this time wasn't the Times, and it wasn't the Washington Post. It was the Wall Street Journal, which is nobody's idea of a liberal organization.